Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Hearing Hiruzen says Fugaku Uchiha, you are the fifth Hokage, no one had any complaints, and they started applauding while looking at Fugaku's dazed face. As for Fugaku himself, he didn't know how to feel about this. After all, this is his dream. A dream he gave up on a long time ago because of the terrible situation and the pressure his clan was under. Now, however, he was living that impossible childhood dream of becoming the first Uchiha Hokage and can help the Uchiha clan rise again, and it was all thanks to the kid standing behind him with his weird information network and ingenious planning. Without him knowing, a tear slid down his face, but different from the blood that dripped from his eyes when he was fighting Danzo from using his Mangekyo Sharingan. This was a tear of happiness. No one expected the stoic Fugaku to shed a tear, but it only made them warm up to him even more and understand just what kind of pressure this man was under. After all, if clan heads like them can't understand him, no one will. Meanwhile, seeing Fugaku shed a tear made Hiruzen think, maybe this change is what the village needed, before he too accepted him as the new Hokage from in heart, and not just because of the situation. Looking at the reactions around me and their understanding looks toward Fugaku, I couldn't help but think people truly accept others more when they show their human side. Fugaku finally regained his calm, but he still smiled when he spoke. Thank you, everyone, for agreeing with this decision. I will make sure to live up to the expectations of the village and its people. Everyone nodded in approval with some saying, we will be counting on you, 5th Hokage-sama. Fugaku almost didn't react to what that man said because being called Hokage-sama was unbelievable to him, but Hiruzen quickly helped to set the conversation back on track. We will hold a celebration later. But now we need to think about who will replace Danzo, Koharu, and Hamura as council members. At this, Fugaku quickly regained his stoic look and said, indeed. First, we need to make sure that the root hideout is cleared and retrieve all the information and research that's there, and see if we can integrate them into normal Umbu or keep them as separate unite. As for the other two, Hamura was responsible for our relations with the nobles of the Land of Fire while Koharu was responsible for the logistics, so we need two competent people in these two areas to replace them. I personally think that the 3rd Hokage will play a good role as a coordinator with the nobles of the Land of Fire. As for the logistics, I think the Hatake clan would be perfect for this because even though they are mostly civilians, their management skills are top-notch. The people here were surprised at Fugaku giving Hiruzen the spot of being responsible with the nobles since they are basically enemies, but a tactician like Shikaka quickly understood something and thought, he's trying to distance Hiruzen even more from Koharu and Hamura by leaving him some power. Plus, with Hiruzen having good relations with the nobles including the daimyo, the change in the Hokage won't cause a huge disturbance. Not to mention that with this he can keep an eye on Hiruzen and his clan under the pretense of his duties. What a smart move. As for Hiruzen, he simply said, I don't mind, without showing anything on his face while the others also accepted. But as for the second proposition, some had their complaints immediately. Hokage-sama, the Hatake clan is weak, and this might cause them to have issues when interacting with outsiders, said Choza Akimichi while thinking that his clan that's experienced in selling pills is a better choice, but someone didn't take too kindly to what he said. This man is Kakashi Hatake, the most famous ninja from the Hatake clan, even though he doesn't visit the clan after his father's death. Fugaku calmly said, if you are worried about their strength, I am sorry, but I don't think many people here can beat Kakashi. And I believe what they lack in strength, they make for in management skills. At this time, Hiruzen decided to insert his opinion. I think it's a good idea, but we will have to get their opinion on it first. After all, I don't think Kakashi is a fit representative for the Hatake clan. Kakashi nodded since it was the truth, and Fugaku decided to take a step back for now and asked for the people's opinion on who is a good choice for this position, and they ended up with Hatake clan head Noka Hatake, Choza Akimichi, Hayashi Hyuga, and surprisingly Hiruzen proposed Tsunade while saying that even though she likes gambling she has very good management skills, which is true seeing how she didn't suck like him as a Hokage. Hayashi was chosen because the Hyuga clan has many businesses, especially in creating all kinds of medicine and ointments. Before long, Noka Hatake was invited to the meeting and liked the idea. He was a tall, white-haired man with a muscular body despite his old age, and he has a friendly and natural aura that caused people around him to subconsciously relax. His eyes almost never left Kakashi when he entered, making him avert his eyes. With all three present, all of them started proposing business plans to convince the people around them to vote for them, and very quickly it was decided with Noka winning by a landslide. As most were satisfied and some were disappointed, the meeting was finally getting to the main point that needs to be addressed: Danzo's kidnapping. So Fugaka said congratulations to the two new council members, but now it's not time to celebrate. We need to quickly locate Danzo and prepare countermeasures in case he leaks information about us to other villages. We also. As the meeting was going on, unknown to everyone in the village, two old people were currently angrily discussing, how dare they humiliate us and dismiss us like that after all we did to the village. Those brats have no respect for their elders. Kohara said. Hamura slammed the table and said, they will regret it very soon. It won't be long before they mess it up and come begging for our help. TCH, damn that Danzo and the useless Hiruzen, just some pressure, and he caves in. As they were venting their frustration and the hatred building inside their hearts, a servant came rushing in and said, Hamura-sama, Kohara-sama, something urgent happened. Danzo was kidnapped by a masked man from his jail and his whereabouts are unknown right now. Ha ha ha, Koharu and Hamura started laughing. Serves them right. Danzo will sure come back for revenge. You can leave now, Hamura said to the servant before Kohara said with curiosity, I wonder who that masked man is. I will gladly reward him for such a slick move, haha dash. Oh, how nice of you. I will gladly accept your reward. A voice interrupted her as a vortex appeared in front of them, and from within it, a masked man slowly emerged, his intentions unknown. Obito, or as currently will be known as Toby, exited the vortex and stood before them. Koharu and Hamura's eyes squinted, and they felt really nervous at this mysterious ninja that appeared in front of them out of nowhere. Feeling that their lives might be in danger, they both gave a signal to the two Jonin ninjas that always protect them from the dark, and they instantly attacked without wasting any time or hesitation. Hamura's guard was a man in the usual Konoha ninja outfit. He had short spiky brown hair and brown eyes, and a very distinctive scar extending from his ear to his neck. Koharu's guard, on the other hand, was a short woman with straight short black hair and red eyes that seemed filled with bloodlust in contrast to her cute face, and she was preparing her attack against Toby. The man used a short sword as a weapon, and he directly rushed to Toby to slash his head off, but to his surprise, his attack went straight through his body while Toby's hand was quickly approaching his neck at the same time his blade was going to completely pass him through. However, the man had trust in the other Jonin's capabilities, and her helping indeed didn't take long or disappoint him because she quickly weaved some hand seals in quick succession and locked eyes with Toby as she cast a strong Genjutsu 1000 Thorn Vines of Death. Unfortunately, this is the worst way a person can deal with an Uchiha because the Sharingan gives very strong resistance to Genjutsu, not to mention someone as skilled as Toby that can put a whole squad of Umbu under Genjutsu easily. And that's what happened, because the moment this woman thought she caught the masked man under her Genjutsu, she found that she was the one inside of it. As vines filled with sharp thorns started slithering around her body, causing bloody and terrible lacerations wherever they go, and a terrible pain followed with them. Meanwhile, the man's sword finally passed through Toby's neck completely, and Toby didn't waste time and caught him from his neck in a stranglehold and looked in his eyes to also put him under a Genjutsu before he threw him away like trash. This is why going against Toby without knowing his abilities will 99% of the time end badly for you. The last 1% you need to be someone like Minato or the Raikage and can react very fast to avoid the initial surprise. Finished with these two, Toby simply dusted his clothes to show his disregard to those guards who are foaming from the mouth right now because of the Genjutsus they're under before he looked at Koharu and Hamura. Well, that was quite the exciting welcome. Do you always welcome people like this? What do you want? Yelled the nervous Koharu while Hamura was thinking of 1,000 ways to escape this situation, but he understood that no help will arrive in time with Konoha's forces busy searching for this masked man's tracks outside the village since they didn't find any inside, which caused him to despair, and Koharu arrived at the same conclusion. Death is near. Relax, I am only here to propose something to the two of you, said Toby with a calm voice. Knowing they have a chance to talk themselves out of this situation, they both relaxed a little before Hamura asked, "What is it you want from us? We have no more power inside the village, so we won't be able to help you. And if you want secret information, you already have Danzo for that, so what do you want?" "I already know that. My offer is actually helpful to you. Believe it or not. I have a grudge with the Uchiha clan, and I am willing to help you get rid of them, and even gain back your positions back, of course. That's if you are willing to fully cooperate," said Toby, with some killing intent leaking when he mentioned his grudge. Of course, his grudge was also directed towards Konoha, but he won't tell them this. Seeing that they have a common enemy with the masked man, they relaxed even more. After all, the enemy of your enemy is your friend, and they can't escape this situation. However, they were still doubtful, so Koharu asked, "What kind of grudge do you have with the Uchiha?" "That you don't need to know. What you need to know is that I almost pushed them to rebel to distract them with the village before I finished them off, but someone ruined my plans at the last minute, and we ended up with this situation," said Toby in a resentful tone, and they didn't like the idea that he tried to use the village even if they also were pushing in that direction. "Then were you really the one that attacked the village?" asked Hamura. "Oh, who told you that?" asked Toby curiously, since he didn't know what happened on the meeting room and that Hiruzen talked with Minato and Kushina. After all, he didn't have time to torture some information from Danzo yet. Minato told Hiruzen about this, said Hamura, and Toby did his best to not show any reaction while thinking, "So you are alive, Sensei." Toby felt glad that he was wearing a mask because they only saw his narrowed right eye as he said, "The fourth Hokage is still alive? Do you really believe this? I personally saw the battle between Fugaku and Danzo. This is obviously another secret jutsu from the Uchiha that was even capable of tricking Hiruzen. It's probably the same thing they used to control the Nine Tails 5 years ago." They tried to retort before they abruptly stopped when they remembered the weird shape Fugaku's eyes took in his fight against Danzo, and that weird ability is an Aji that can even distort reality, so they thought it was possible for the Uchiha to have such an ability, causing them to tremble in fear. The whole village was tricked, they thought as they looked at the horror in each other's eyes. What these two old teammates didn't know is Toby was only messing with them, but the Uchiha really had such an ability called Kodo Amatsukami that only Bakorio and Fugaku knows who possessed it. "We need to warn Hiruzen," and the Villag started saying Koharu with worry, but Toby cut her off. "You think they will believe you? They will simply say that you were trying to slander the Uchiha in order to get your lost authority back." "What do you propose then?" asked Hamura, and Toby quickly replied, "I want you to pick the clans you trust the most and leave Konoha with them, while I will prepare to put pressure with some connections I have with other villages, and once they cave in, you can come back and rescue the village. You will become heroes and save Konoha from the deceit of the Uchiha." Hearing this crazy plan, they weren't sure, but they felt that this is the only chance they have in saving Konoha from the deceit and lies of the Uchiha that even resorted to talking in the name of their dead hero, the fourth Hokage. As for whether those hidden villages will only put pressure or attack Konoha, they can simply side with Konoha if things get out of proportion, right? So blinded by wanting to regain their authority and hatred for the Uchiha, they made their minds influenced by Toby using the strongest jutsu in the world of Naruto, the Takno Jutsu. After Toby successfully cast the Takno Jutsu on Koharu and Hamura by using their prejudice towards the Uchiha, they agreed to his proposal and finally remembered to ask, "What's your name?" said Koharu. "I am Toby. Pleasure meeting you too," said Toby. Currently, the Akatsuki still did not have the same level of fame as in the original storyline since they didn't take action against the different Jinchuriki yet, with their members being Nagato, Pain, Konan, Toby, Zetsu, Kakuzu, Kisame, Sasori, Orochimaru, and the recently joined Juzo. But right now Toby wasn't known as a member even to most of the other members of the Akatsuki, and so they didn't react much to his name, and only remembered his recent achievement of fighting the fourth Hokage and surviving, so they believed someone like this can help them in taking out the Uchiha even with how strong Fugaku seemed to be. "Well then, please make your preparations to leave the village quickly while I have to go convince Danzo," said Toby as he started getting in a vortex again until he fully disappeared. Koharu and Hamura heaved a sigh of relief and looked at each other in determination before they started discussing seriously about what clans to bring with them and who can be trusted for this. Noble Mission before a groan interrupted them as their two guards woke up still shaking from the horrors they just experienced. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, I just received information from my clone about the current situation of Fugaku becoming the fifth Hokage and Danzo's kidnapping, so I turned to Itachi and Sure that were still accompanying me, but now with two more kids in the room and a woman. They were Naruto, Sasuke, and Bakoto. Naruto was under the protection of Samambu when the incident occurs, and they only let him go when everything was settled. As for Makoto, she came here with Sasuke when she heard I was hospitalized and kept reprimanding me for getting involved in that fight, and was so unhappy that Itachi and Sure didn't escape her scolding because they a little about the plan. As I sorted out the new memories, I looked at the still angry Makoto and said the clone that accompanied Fugaku-san to the meeting dispelled himself just now, and I have some good news and super good news. What do you want to hear first? I decided not to tell her about Danzo's kidnapping to not worry her, and she simply snorted at me and said, "Quickly tell us both." I can see the curiosity in her eyes hidden behind her anger that only increased when she heard me say with a smile, "The good news is, our clan will be going back to the center of the village, and we won't be under any pressure anymore because the people behind it are dismissed from their jobs. This is the good news." Everyone in the room felt really happy, especially Itachi and Sure because this was their dream, for the Uchiha to coexist peacefully with the village. "What's the super good news? Quickly tell us," said Sasuke with stars shining in his eyes from excitement, the same face he showed when I told him I battled a Kage-level ninja. "The super good news is, the village has a new Hokage," I said and paused to raise the suspense, causing everyone to start complaining, and Makoto gave me a death glare, so I quickly continued. "The new and fifth Hokage of the village hidden in the leaf is Fugaku Uchiha," I said while emphasizing Fugaku's name, and they felt like a bomb exploded inside their heads. "Father is the new Hokage," said Sasuke in a low voice before he said it again with excitement as if he just woke up from a dream. "Mother," and I sang, "Father is the new Hokage." Hearing his voice, they finally woke up from their daze, which only Naruto didn't fall in because he doesn't know Fugaku nor does he understand the Uchiha situation that much. The impact of this news can only be understood by Uchiha, as can be seen in Makoto that started crying while holding her mouth with her hands and said, "Did Fugaku really become the Hokage?" Yes, hearing my confirmation, she broke down in even more tears. This same scene was repeating itself between the Uchiha members as the news of the new Hokage traveled around the village. Meanwhile, inside a different dimension, Toby was having the same talk he had with Koharu and Hamura, but this time with Danzo. And the only difference is that it didn't take long for Danzo to agree when he was promised his life would be spared and he will get some Sharingans once they deal with the Uchiha. Instead, he even proposed something to Toby. "There's someone that holds a grudge with Konoha. I think we can get his help quite easily," said Danzo with darkness and desire for vengeance swirling in his eye. "Oh, and who might this person be?" said Toby coldly. "Orochimaru." "Tell me something I don't know," thought Toby in disappointment while thinking about that weird snake. 5 days later. I was finally released from the hospital to the shock of everyone because I recovered quickly thanks to some chakra I got from Kurama. It didn't feel that bad staying in the hospital because I always had people visiting me. Sometimes it's Makoto, sometimes Naruto and Sasuke, sometimes Hayashi or his family, including the now doing better Himawari and Shihanada. Who would have thought that the next time I meet her, I would be the one in bed severely injured? At the same time, many changes happened throughout the village. The damage from the battle was restored, and craftsmen already started carving Fugaku's face on the mountain chain behind Konoha. The Uchiha clan was relocated close to the center of Konoha, and the Hatake clan started taking care of the economy, which was one of the worst among the various hidden villages. The Root Umbu were being integrated inside the normal Umbu successfully, and they were grateful for escaping the enslavement of Danzo. As for the research on Hashirama cells and other forbidden things that Danzo was doing, including some research on the Sharingan and Byakugan, and even would release that wasn't discovered after the escape of Orochimaru. One person that also benefited from this is Yamado, the only known wood-style user, which resulted from an experiment Orochimaru did under the cooperation of Danzo, but even after Yamado left the root and joined Kakashi's team. He always had Danzo's curse seal, but not anymore, and now this kid with code name Tenzo was finally completely free. But the happiness and optimism didn't last for long. before today to the shock of everyone during the usual meeting held at the Hokage Tower. Koharu and Hamura dropped a bomb saying that they are going to relocate from the village with their Utatane and Mitokado clans, and 5 more clans decided to follow them, including 2 medium-sized clans and 3 small clans. Everyone was enraged by this decision, including the always pacifist Hiruzen. Koharu, Hamura, are you too crazy? With the village weakened after the incident 5 years ago, you want to leave with 5 more clans? Hamura's stoic face didn't change at all and only felt that he was doing good while no one can understand him. We already made our decision, Hiruzen. We will be leaving tomorrow and relocate somewhere else. Hiruzen tried to change their mind, but Fugaka raised his hand to stop him and coldly looked at them. Once you leave, you will never have a home in Konoha again. No, you won't have a home in this world anymore soon, thought both Koharu and Hamura ruthlessly. Even though Fugaku was really angry with the current situation, which was basically 7 clans betraying the village, killing them wasn't an option because the village too will lose a lot, and it's not like everyone from these clans are guilty. In the end, those at the bottom can only follow the orders of those above them. Only a ruthless person with twisted morals like Hiruzen and the previous council can order for the death of innocents, including kids, and still sleep at night. Not to mention, it would reflect badly on him to order such a huge massacre and make his position as a Hokage unstable among the civilians. Add to that how low the morale would get. It will also cause many problems with the daimyo of the Land of Fire. The 2 old foxes, Koharu and Hamura, understood all of this. That's why they acted boldly in such a situation. If it was only their 2 clans, the situation would be way different. Of course, with all that said, Fugaku would be a fool if he lets them go away without paying a price, and a heavy price they paid. They were required to provide all their clan's secret jutsus, 70% of their wealth, and they were forbidden from relocating on the Land of Fire. They had to go somewhere else. If any requirement isn't met, a massacre would start, and there were no negotiations in this. This is the attitude of a firm Hokage. If this happened under Hiruzen's rule, he would just sigh helplessly and let them leave without any punishment while saying, "I just want peace," like an idiot. As those 7 clans left, the news about them deserting the village spread like wildfire throughout Konoha, as if it was intentional. This caused a huge disturbance, and some people that didn't know better even grew fearful, thinking the village was left unprotected. Of course, this wasn't something that escaped from the notice of the higher-ups, and they had to try to calm the civilians, so Shikaku came up with a simple strategy, and a sentence quickly started spreading throughout the village. The village lost its dead weight, and its time to rise has come. When the people heard this, even though some were still fearful, they started to have hope for their village to grow to be a better place. Meanwhile, inside the meeting room, only Fugaku, Shikaku, Hiruzen were still in the room as Fugaku complimented his Jonin commander Shikaku. That was a brilliant idea. Now instead of fear, the villagers have hope. Hiruzen nodded in agreement and also gave a compliment of his own. Indeed, Shikaku is always reliable when it comes to strategies. Shikaku simply shrugged. Well, it's just my job, causing the other 2 to smile, but not for long, as Fugaku said. It seems that even though those 7 left the village, they still have some influence, and for us to not be able to locate where the rumors generated from is really worrying. Shikaku nodded, this time serious. I agree. I also feel that something is happening we don't know about. It's impossible for those careful elders to leave Konoha just like that, and for those clans to follow them, and some even still working as spies for them here, means they had something really convincing to say that could lead whole clans to migrate. Add to that how they readily agreed to your strict conditions. It's as if. Fugaku completed his words as his eyes started shining in a scary light, as if they think they will get them back soon. Hiruzen frowned at this scary theory and said, "But what could be so convincing?" Shikaku said one word, "Danzo," and these 2 quickly understood. Did the masked man made another move without our knowledge? All 3 thought as they started to worry for the future. It seems like I have to use Shursui sooner, thought Fugaku as a plan started formulating on his mind. As I was on my way to the new Uchiha compound along with Mikoto and Himawari that started to become friends using me as a shared point of interest, we heard about the rumor of the 7 clans leaving, which made the 2 of them worried. and got me thinking those spineless cowards actually made such a move. Only Obito can convince them of such a thing since no other people can infiltrate the village like him. Let's see what Fugaka decides to do. Otherwise, I will have to ask Mukai to give them a visit and get rid of their main combatants, or at least send Shursui to manipulate either Kaharu or Hamura to get them as spies I thought, not knowing that my second idea is the same as Fugaka's, and currently he's planning on who to send along with Shursui on this mission. As we got close to the Uchiha compound, Himawari took her to leave, but not before giving me a hug and asking to visit and play with Hinata sometimes. As for the new compound, it finally felt like this is one of Konoha's noble clans with the better architecture and quality of structures, not to mention the Uchiha logo was already painted everywhere, as if the people inside will forget where they are. An old dog never changes TCH, I thought. Mikoto led me in front of a huge house saying this is where they live now, before she pointed at a house just in front of it, and said, Bakorio will be living just right in front of us. This way you can visit us all the time. I was surprised at the luxurious house I was given and asked curiously, was this your idea? Mikoto smiled brightly and said proudly, of course. Well, I know Bakorio-kun likes to keep his privacy and won't accept living with us, so I pestered Fugaka for the past 5 days to give you the closest house to ours until he accepted. I smiled back at this woman that always warms my heart and tries to be understanding before I said, thank you. I will make sure to visit a lot. And received a happy smile in return, so I said, I am going to check my house. I will come when it's time for lunch. She gave me the house keys and said, okay, we will be waiting for you. And with this out of the way, I started checking my house better, and it was really big. It was a traditional Japanese 2-story house with a small front garden and a huge garden in the back with a pond inside that has a shurshur odoshi, which is a segmented tube made of bamboo, pivoted to one side of its balance point. At rest, its heavier end is down and resting against a rock. A trickle of water into the upper end of the tube accumulates and eventually moves the tube's center of gravity past the pivot, causing the tube to rotate and dump out the water. The heavier end then falls back against the rock, making a sharp sound, and the cycle repeats. Originally, this device was intended to startle any herbivores such as deer or boars which may be grazing on the plants in the garden, but now they are used primarily for their aesthetic value. Let's hope the inside of this house is as good as the outside. As I entered my house and saw that it was as good inside as it is outside, I thought, I need to bring Naruto to live with me here. After all, why leave that kid alone when I don't need to worry about bringing him to the Uchiha compound anymore? Done with my inspection, I started thinking about what to do for the future now that the Uchiha situation is better. First, I need to deal with Danzo. I can go back in time and try to stop his kidnapping, but we won't have this situation and get rid of those flies easily. Plus, I want to see how this situation develops and gather as much information as possible from it, especially on the Akatsuki. I will also have to take care of Mukai's family as promised. Fugaku will certainly not like the bills. I spent the rest of the morning adjusting my body and checking how well it recovered, and I found that I was back at 100% of my previous power and fully healed. I also noticed that when my bones were broken, I got many debuffs like things that slowed down my recovery, so I didn't heal just like my stats said, which disappointed me a little. I thought that after an hour I would heal from anything, but it seems I was wrong, but at least I know most people would have been crippled from these injuries, not to mention heal them in few days. So I concluded that I can always heal from almost anything, but the healing factor will be affected by the condition of my body and the outside factors I use to help to heal it, like medical ninjutsu, Kurama's chakra medicine, etc. Seeing that it was close to lunchtime, I sent a clone to bring Naruto over so he can eat with us rather than alone and depressed, and Mikoto gladly accepted and even kept apologizing to him. Mikoto and Kushina were close friends, and she always wanted to take care of Naruto, but the situation in the village never allowed it, unfortunately. It was rare for Fugaku and Itachi to be available at lunch, but today both of them were present, and surprisingly Shursui, Hayashi, and his family were also here, so I curiously asked when I saw them looking at me weirdly, what's going on? Naruto and Sasuke yelled at the same time, excited, "Happy birthday, Bakorio," and the rest of the people also started congratulating me while helplessly looking at the two kids that likes to compete at everything. So today is the 9th of June, huh? I totally forgot that this is my new body's birthday. Not wanting to appear rude, I thanked everyone first before I started enjoying the happy atmosphere. Bakorio-kun, come blow on this cake and make a wish. I was dragged by Naruto and Sasuke towards the cake. Sasuke truly wanted me to make a wish while Naruto just wanted to get this over with to eat the cake. Little brat, I will deal with you later. I thought as I stood in front of the cake thinking what I should wish for before I remembered the wish that I always had, causing a feeling of melancholy to raise in my chest, and I blew the 6 candles on the cake. I hope this new life free my chained heart from its shackles. What did you wish for, Bakorio? Said the excited Sasuke, causing everyone to show curiosity, including the stoic Fugaku. I thought about saying the truth for an instant, but I didn't think it was worth it to ruin this atmosphere, so I smiled and said, I wished for my life to be even more enjoyable along with the people I care for, as I looked at the people in the room. Everyone smiled at my wish, especially Makoto and Himawari, whose eyes started shining in happiness. And just like that, the birthday continued with people giving me gifts, including the shy Hinata, and everyone enjoyed their time before they left. At this time, Fugaku called me along with Shursui and Itachi to talk privately. Here it comes, I thought. And indeed, once we were alone in the room, Fugaku started talking. I am sure you 3 heard about the clans that deserted the village, right? All 3 of us nodded, and he continued. We suspect that the reason they left isn't simply because they are dissatisfied with me being the Hokage or the previous council members being dismissed. No, we believe that the masked man that kidnapped Danzo is responsible for this. Fugaku stopped here and looked at our reactions, and he saw that Shursui simply frowned while Itachi looked fearful for some reason. As for me, I didn't react because I already guessed this much, so both my reaction and Shursui's didn't surprise him. What surprised him is Itachi's reaction, so he asked him, "What's wrong, Itachi?" Itachi, who quickly calmed down, said, I believe this masked man is the person that killed my teammate Tenma Izumo when we were sent on our mission to protect the daimyo. He had a weird ability that allowed him to pass through things, and I guess he used it to infiltrate the village and kidnap Danzo. Fugaku remembered this incident that happened around 3 years ago and frowned a little. It seems this guy is targeting our village for a long time, thought Fugaku before he saw Itachi hesitating to say something, so he asked, Don't worry and say what's on your mind. During that incident, the Umbu protecting the daimyo and his 12 other guards were all caught inside a jinjutsu by this man, so he's very skillful at it, but what perplexed me is that he knew my name, and what's surprising even more than that is that when he was about to kill me he felt Kakashi Hitaki approaching, and he knew him just from his chakra signature, which I found weird at the time, so Kakashi might have information on who he is or he faced him before, said Itachi with a thoughtful look. Fugaku also grew thoughtful before he said, I will have to ask Kakashi directly later. It's good we have an idea on what he's good at in terms of abilities. As for why I called you here, I want you 3 to go on a mission and help Shursui use his ability on either Koharu or Hamura and control them to act as spies for us. Itachi was surprised. Shursui's ability? Father, is it something like what you did in your fight with Danzo? Even though Itachi wasn't present, he heard about his father's eyes changing to something different from the normal Sharingan. Fugaku sighed at this question before he turned to Shursui, who nodded at him before he looked at Itachi. Itachi, our clan's eye powers can evolve to something more than just the Sharingan. When a person from our clan experiences huge emotions, they unlock their Sharingan. But when they experience even deeper emotions, they unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan. The abilities of the Mangekyo Sharingan differ from one person to another, and my ability is Kodo Amatsukami. Itachi asked while surprised at this information. Kodo Amatsukami? Yes, this ability allows me to manipulate a person's senses and basically have complete control over them without them even realizing. This is the ultimate Jinjutsu, said Shursui seriously as his normal 3-tomo Sharingan started transforming to a 4-point pinwheel shape, leaving Itachi shocked at his best friend. Suddenly the back he always chased after and thought was close seemed so far away. And the main character is born in the 9th of June, making him around a month and a half older than Sasuke and 4 months older than Naruto. Seeing how shocked Itachi was, I thought originally Itachi got his Mangekyo Sharingan because of Shursui's death, but now Shursui is still alive. And it's a waste to let him die while still having so much unexplored potential, so Itachi might never awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan unless someone can trick him with something like Shirsue's Kodo Amatsukami or... Nah, he's not worth it. At this moment, Fugaku's eyes also started changing to his Mangekyo Sharingan form, which is 3 dots followed by 3 curves spiraling counterclockwise around the pupil, and said, "My Mangekyo ability allows me to shrink and expand space." But the Mangekyo Sharingan also grants huge improvements to the normal Sharingan abilities Eye of Insight and Eye of Hypnotism. The Eye of Insight grants the user the ability to see chakra and detect irregularities in its flow. Incredible clarity of perception that allows the user to mimic what they see and even predict movement in a fight when it reaches a high level. The Eye of Hypnotism grants the user the ability to perform Jinjutsu, Sharingan. By establishing eye contact with a target, the Sharingan user traps them within a Jinjutsu which can be exploited for one of the various purposes, such as causing instantaneous but temporary loss of consciousness or paralysis in the target, forceful extraction of information, relaying memories, erasing memories, removing Jinjutsu placed on the target by others, and controlling the target's actions. People are usually fearful of the Uchiha because of the second ability, as it forces you to fight them while making sure you won't make eye contact with them accidentally, and at the same time the terrifying aspect that it can control people, but especially tailed beasts, the same way Madara did, using Kurama against Hashirama. As Itachi digested this new information, Fugaku started talking about the main point. "I want you 3 to quickly follow those clans and complete this mission as soon as possible, and you are not allowed to divulge any information about it no matter what before or after the mission. Understood?" "Yes, yes," both Itachi and Shursui said before they looked at me, and Shursui asked doubtfully, "But why are we taking Bakorio with us?" I looked back at him and shrugged, indicating I don't know, but Fugaku was quick with the explanation as he gave me a deep look and said, "Bakorio is very good at both tracking and stealth, and he has the most information on that masked man, so if anything unexpected happens, he might have a solution for it." Hearing his explanation and remembering how weird I was, especially how I tracked them on their mission to capture Mukai, resulted in them accepting, but I had other opinions. "I didn't say I was going to do it, did I?" I said with a smile, while Shursui and Itachi frowned a little at my attitude at such a serious moment. Fugaku narrowed his eyes at me and said, "The village is under a huge threat. We really need to ensure the success of this mission. Are you really going to sit back and watch it failing?" I also narrowed my eyes at him and said, "Oh, how scary. Maybe I should tell Makoto-san that her husband is threatening an inexperienced kid and trying to send him on such a dangerous mission. Better play nice, little brat, or you will pay for it," I thought. Fugaku felt embarrassed getting threatened by his wife, but he indeed forgot that this was just a kid in the end, no matter how abnormal his actions are, so he didn't push too hard on him, and to the shock of both Itachi and Shursui, he relented and said, "Tell me what will make you want to go on this mission?" "That you bitch," I thought before I said, "I want you to take care of the bills of a sick 3-year-old kid that's currently being treated inside of Konoha's hospital." Fugaku and the other 2 were surprised at my request since it seemed easy, so he asked, "Sure, that's easy. What's the name of this kid?" "Glad to hear that's easy. The kid's name is Murata Kohinata. Please make sure that all his treatment expenses are taken care of," I said with a mischievous smile, and Fugaku's mouth couldn't help but twitch, knowing that he just shot himself in the foot. "Is he the son of that famous Mukai? Why are you helping the family of a traitor?" "Why would you call my subordinate a traitor? That's not nice," I said with an innocent look that didn't work on these 3 that knew me, but my words shocked them, especially Shursui and Itachi that fought Mukai just a few days ago. Fugaku had an idea on how I got him to work for me and started rubbing his forehead. "And where is he now?" I asked him to search for Tsunade. "Actually, this is another thing I want you to do. Find her as soon as possible, and it's better if you task Jiraiya with this since he's good at locating people, Orochimaru not included. And tell them both to get back to the village as soon as possible," I said seriously. "Why do you want them both back?" Fugaku too got serious. "I don't like where the situation is heading, so let's just try to prepare for the worst," I said thoughtfully. Fugaku started to worry seeing me come to the same guess Shikaka had, but he didn't say anything for now and decided to wait until he sees the results of this mission. As for Itachi and Shui, they felt both worry and admiration seeing that I didn't ask for anything for myself and felt a little guilty for misunderstanding my behavior. Okay, I will make sure to fulfill your requests. Now go and make your preparations and depart as soon as possible, said Fugaku, and I left with Shui and Itachi to prepare some weapons and supplies for the mission. I had everything ready on my inventory, so I simply strapped my short swords to my back and went to meet Naruto, which was still in the Uchiha compound fighting with Sasuke but lost every time. As I approached them, no greetings were exchanged as they quickly stopped their fighting and rushed at me. Naruto simply jumped and threw a kick at me while Sasuke threw a stone first to act as a distraction before he crouched down and tried to kick me on my leg. Oh, their teamwork is improving. I thought looking at these attacks in slow motion before I simply jumped and caught the stone with my right hand and Naruto's leg with my left hand evading and blocking all the attacks, but Sasuke quickly tried to follow up his attack sending an up kick after stabilizing his crouching position. Unfortunately, what greeted his kick was Naruto's stomach, which I dragged below me by the leg I was still grabbing, causing his eyes to almost bulge from his face comically. And before Sasuke could react, I threw the stone right back at him, hitting him on his forehead, making him wince in pain. Next, I used Naruto's body to leap away from them, causing Naruto to fall harder on Sasuke. Oh, you guys improved, I said, as I looked at the two kids still in pain, but you still have a long way to land a punch on me. You never go easy on us, said Sasuke and pouted, and Naruto just held his stomach and glared at Sasuke and was about to fight him again, but I had to stop him. Okay, stop, I need to talk with Naruto for a while. Follow me, I said as I walked in the direction of my new house. Inside the house, I looked at Naruto and asked, how have you been lately? I am sorry I couldn't take care of you properly. I noticed that Naruto's eyes started getting a little bit wet, but I didn't say anything and waited for his answer. I was scared at first, especially when they told me I can't meet you again and threatened to kill you if you get close to me, but Mom and Dad kept telling me to not worry and that you would solve it in the past few days. Naruto kept telling me about his experiences these days when he wasn't with me, especially when that made it a crime if an Uchiha approaches him. Before I said, what do you think about living with me from now on? Naruto looked surprised at first before his teary look quickly turned into excitement and said, really? Can I really live with you? I smiled at him and nodded, yes you can. It would be lonely to live alone in such a big house, don't you think? Naruto nodded excitedly, he was really happy hearing he won't be living alone anymore. After all, even though he can talk with his parents in the seal space, it's still not the same as living with them where they can really take care of you. So I gave him a spare key to my house and said, go bring your belongings from your house. I will ask Makoto-san and Sasuke to help you. But first let me talk with your parents real quick. I said and he nodded, so I entered the seal space like usual and found Minato and Kushina sitting there talking with Kurama. Oh, welcome Bakorio-kun, come over here quickly, said Kushina happily. Hi Kushina-san, Minato-san, you too Kurama, I said with a smile. Growling, what are you here for, kid? Are you after my chakra again, said Kurama in annoyance. I smiled embarrassedly at my intentions getting known, but denied them. Of course not, I am here to thank you guys for helping me out dealing with those elders and giving enough chakra to recover quicker. Kurama just snorted, not believing me at all. No, we should be the ones thanking you for taking care of Naruto and stopping a disaster from happening in the village because of those elders, said Minato with a sigh. Well, I am sure you know about those clans deserting the village, and we believe there's someone behind them. So I will be going on a mission to gather some information and might not be back for a while. So yeah, Kurama, I want some of your chakra, I said with a weak smile. I knew it, you were after my chakra again. TCH, I am not giving you any more chakra, scram away, said Kurama in anger. This angered me as well, so I rushed at him and started yelling, you huge dumb fox, you have this huge reserve of chakra, and yet you are still being stingy with me. You can shove it up your ass. What did you say? Kurama started releasing an ominous aura as he brought his giant head in front of my face. What, you want to fight? I said, not retreating in the slightest. Minato and Kushina looked at this helplessly and tried to mediate the situation. Relax, you two. Don't start fighting over nothing. TCH, well, he's acting like a kid, I said in anger, causing both Kushina and Minato to almost burst out laughing as they thought, as if you were not. Growling, who's acting like a kid, said Kurama. I snorted at him before I turned to Minato and Kushina. How are you guys doing with your research on Kurama's seals and the recovery seal? Kurama was about to retort about how I dare ignore him, but he stopped when he heard what I said, and Kushina quickly replied proudly before she deflated again. We're done with the anti-control seal and progressed a lot on creating a way to stop him from being sealed, but we still couldn't find a way to make something that could recover a human body from scratch. So we stopped and decided to focus on the other two seals and wait until you find Lady Tsunade and work on it again with her. I was happy that they found a way to help Kurama resist getting controlled, and soon we'll find a way to make sealing him harder. I see. Well, this is good news. We can get Kurama out of Naruto soon. And don't worry. I asked Fugaku to task Jiraiya with searching for Tsunade, and I also instructed a friend of mine to search for her, so we should be able to find her soon. That's good to hear, said Minato with a smile, while Kurama just looked the other way when he saw how happy I was for him going to get free soon and touched my shoulder with his finger, transferring some of his chakra to me without saying anything. A Tsundere like always, I thought as I patted his head when he was done before I said, Minato-san, do you have any advice on how to deal with that masked man if I happen to meet him? Everyone looked at me seriously, and Minato narrowed his eyes and said, always wait for when he's about to attack before you make your move, and be careful. He might be even stronger than when I fought him 5 years ago, so don't let your guard down, and it's better to retreat than fight him. Okay. I will make sure to be extra careful. Oh, by the way, I think you should make contact with Kakashi soon and help him deal with his Sharingan. If he continues like this, he will simply waste his future potential and fall deeper and deeper into his pit of despair. After all, you were his teacher, I said with a sigh. Minato looked sad and disappointed in himself and said, yes, I was planning to do so, but the situation was just too unstable with people like Danzo in power, and I didn't want to draw too many eyes to Naruto, but now it's different. Good. Well then, take care, you guys. You too, Kurama, I said and waved them goodbye. Be careful, Bakorio and Kushina waved worriedly, and Minato simply nodded. After I almost disappeared, I heard Kurama's voice come back alive, which brought a smile to my face. After I left, I felt my body and felt satisfied when I saw that I had enough of Kurama's chakra to generate 3 tails of version 1 transformation. Next, I took Naruto to Makoto and told her that he was going to live with me from now on, causing her to look at me as if I stole something from her before she took him with Sasuke to retrieve his belongings, while I went into the direction of Konoha's huge entrance and waited for Itachi and Shursui to finish their preparations. I didn't wait for long, and after just half an hour they both arrived together. Are you guys ready? Said Shursui. Yes, yeah. As the oldest of the group, he was given the intel on the path the 7 clans were using to leave the Land of Fire, and so he quickly said, follow me. I will explain the information I have as we move. And so just like that, I left the Hidden Leaf Village again, this time on my birthday. When we left the village, Shursui began explaining the details of the mission. According to the 5th Hokage, trackers that we sent to keep an eye on them found out that the 7 clans are still gathered together, similar to when they left, and they are heading west. The higher-ups believe that their destination is the Land of Rain. The Land of Rain? Why would they go there? Was their helper a member of the village hidden in the rain? Asked Itachi. No. I don't think the village hidden in the rain will attempt to provoke Konoha in this way when they just had a civil war and the previous chief Hanzo died. As for them accepting these clans to strengthen themselves, this possibility was also rejected because of the hatred they have for Konoha because of the Third Great Ninja War making their land a battleground, said Shursui with a sigh. Itachi frowned at the mention of war but asked an important question. Then how are those clans so sure nothing will happen to them? That's what we are here to find out, replied Shursui seriously. I wonder how Nagato is reacting to Obito inviting people from Konoha, I thought. Flashback to 5 days ago. After Toby left Konoha, he sent a signal to Pain to contact him, and so in a hidden location on the Land of Rain, the leader of the Akatsuki, Pain, used his astral projection jutsu to have a private discussion with Toby about his recent actions. This jutsu allows the members of the Akatsuki to send out thought waves converted into chakra. These thought waves are then picked up by Pain, acting as a kind of control tower. This technique amplifies the thought waves and broadcasts them to a specific location through illusionary bodies. While Pain is relaying the members' thoughts, they can have conversations and use varying techniques. If someone were to look inside this hidden room, they would be scared at the two shadowy figures facing each other. One of them that appeared to have light purple eyes with black circles inside, whereas very few people in this world knew their true name, Rinnegan was questioning another figure wearing a mask with a single Sharingan shining from it. "Toby, why are you using the emergency signal to contact me?" asked Pain in a cold, distorted voice. This is currently Nagato with his god complex in full effect from all the BS Jiraiya showered him about being the chosen child. Toby ignored his tone and answered, "I was forced to act quickly because of some changes in the situation. Well, first let me explain to you what happened recently in Konoha." And so he began explaining everything that happened, from the new Hokage to the fall of Danzo to the 7 clans he tricked to desert Konoha. Pain's expression kept flickering, especially when he heard how weakened Konoha was currently. Of course, those clans are merely tools in the end and will be used as cannon fodder to destroy Konoha and get the 9 tails to further our plans before I get rid of them. After all, what better way to destroy Konoha than with its own people? Pain's eyes ignited with hatred. "Indeed, the 9 tails is important for our plans. You acted well. Do you need the assistance of the Akatsuki?" In this timeline, Nagato, Pain, was still young and can deal with the pressure from using the Rinnegan, so if he truly participates, the results would be scary. Toby thought about it for a moment and said, "I do, but if we blatantly attack Konoha now, even when we win, it will only make us the target of all the other villages, which will put a huge pressure on us. So we either attack all the villages together and take them by surprise, starting a full-blown out war, or we use people from Konoha itself to attack it and at best use 2 of our members to act as hired mercenaries like usual." Unknown to Toby, Nagato thought about it and, trusting in his power and fate, was about to choose the first option, but a blue-haired woman that was sitting beside his real body stopped him from acting recklessly. "Nagato, don't be rash. I still don't trust this man. We better be careful, since I feel that his hatred for Konoha is driving his actions more than helping achieve the goal of the organization. Since we have the option of taking down Konoha and take the 9 tails without endangering the organization, take it." She was Conan. Nagato hesitated a little before he nodded at her. "Okay." Then his attention returned to the body of Pain, and the same cold voice sounded again. "We will go with the second option. I will order Kakuzu and Kisame to accompany you along with Orochimaru, and this should be enough to deal with the weakened Konoha along with the minions you gathered." "Good. I asked the clans to build a temporary base on the Land of Rain near the border with the Land of Fire. Make some preparations for their arrival and ask Orochimaru and the other 2 to prepare for the upcoming fight before I meet up with them, and try to get the other hidden villages involved," said Toby with his eyes shining in a crimson light for the slaughter he's about to cause. "Just wait. You will be erased soon," thought Toby as his hatred burned stronger and stronger. Back to the present time. It didn't take long before we quickly started catching up to the 7 clans, and we started finding more and more traces of their path. It's impossible to hide your traces when you are traveling in such a huge group, especially when not all of your members are ninjas. After 4 hours of traveling, I finally caught the scent of a huge number of people ahead of us, so I signaled for Itachi and Shursui to stop. I smelled the air a little bit before I focused on my hearing and said, "I can sense a huge gathering of people around 3 kilometers from us, and few stationary human smells scattered in a huge range around them, probably centuries. The sun is almost setting, so they are probably going to camp here before they go on with their journey." Good job. We should be more careful from here on out to not be detected," Shursui said as both he and Itachi activated their Sharingans to help them detect people just in case I missed something. As for me, I did something else which surprised them. I put my ear on the ground and closed my eyes. My face was focused like never before, feeling for any movements under the ground, as I guessed. Zetsu is keeping an eye on them, and he's moving all over the place with his clones. TCH, this mission is already hard, and now it's becoming even harder to finish it without exposing Shursui's ability. "What are you doing?" asked Itachi curiously. "Someone is moving under the ground and he's observing the camp. We need to be extra careful," I said seriously. "Okay." They both narrowed their eyes at this unknown enemy and nodded. A hard mission is turning out to be an impossible mission. Hearing that there's an unknown enemy moving under the ground observing the camp put both Itachi and Shursui on edge, because they thought that IWA, the village hidden in stone, is trying to make a move against Konoha by establishing contact with these rebellious clans. As for what reason, the answer is simple: war. The reason they came to this conclusion is that ninja from IWA are famous for their mastery of earth-related jutsu. This is what they guess this person is using to move under the ground in such a skillful way. However, I felt nervous for a different reason. Let hope that only Zetsu is around. If other Akatsuki members are around too, this mission will be impossible, I thought as I heard Shursui say with a calm expression on his face. We need to make a plan for both engaging and retreating. Shursui's really talented. He already regained his calm as the leader to not make us feel even more nervous. Still, Fugaka really miscalculated our power sending us on this mission. Was he really overestimating my strength? Or was it that they suspect that some of the spies in Konoha are too high level and will report any huge deployments? TCH, how annoying, we need to purge them soon. I thought as I saw Shursui take out a map and a pin and gave them to me while saying, Bakorio, please mark the locations of the stationary sentries you can sense and the route of the ones on the ground on the map. I took the map and the pin from his hands before I focused on my senses as much as I could to the point I felt I was almost merging with nature. What a great feeling. I thought as I started marking the location of the camp and the sentries one by one before I put my ear on the ground again to try to detect Zetsu's traveling route, but it was pointless because he and his clones kept changing their position randomly. I gave Shursui the map without the Zetsu's route in it and said the guy underground is probably a very skilled spy. He changes his and his clone's route constantly and only stops in one location for a few seconds before he changes again. I couldn't find any pattern to his actions. Both Itachi and Shursui sighed at this before Itachi said, that guy is troublesome. As for those clans, I've seen this formation of sentries before when I went to war as a kid with my father. This is a formation used when expecting an enemy attack and you are ready to use any number of sacrifices. You too see how the sentries are spaced from each, yet they are all in triangular formations, so each person is at least on the line of sight of two others. Shursui and I nodded, so he continued this time with disgust, but this formation is usually never used unless under extreme circumstances, because different from other formations, at the tip of each triangle, they put the weakest ninja as cannon fodder with their only job is to send a warning before they die, or at least let their deaths be seen by the two also weak ninja behind them, and it goes on like this. This is so the strong ninja never gets assassinated and they can mount a counter attack. This formation is called the Triangle of Death. A solemn atmosphere fell on us, and we were reminded again how cruel the ninja world can be. We also understood that these clans distrusted Konoha so much to the point they were preparing for war anytime. At first, I thought that if the Uchiha clan simply left the village, at least Konoha won't interfere and our only problem will be being targeted by other villages. Now, however, I am sure they would have hunted us down the moment we set foot out of the village. I thought in anger. Shursui wasn't inclined on using force on these weak ninjas that probably were forced into this by their clan elders, so he picked the best move, infiltrating them. While they are on guard like this will only cause a tragedy and we will be quickly surrounded. So I think the best moment to infiltrate is when they are on the move. Let's observe the changes and try to find any flaws we can use. Okay, we both nodded before we started observing the behavior of the sentries, but Itachi and Shursui always retreat when they feel they are going to be sensed. As for me, I heard some conversations. Why are they sending us here? I am merely a genin, a girl with slumped shoulders and a sad face that just finished her watch shift, said to her friend. At least we are genin. Think about those academy students being sacrificed blatantly like this while saying it's for the sake of the village and clans. I never thought our clans were so disgusting. I wish I wasn't born here, said the friend to this girl with a disappointed look on his face. Do you think the village will really attack us? Asked the girl, worried about their safety, but the other kid simply shook his head. No, what I am worried about is us going to another country, and all they are worried about is our village attacking us. Conversations like this were happening all around the camp, not just from the kids, but from their parents too. After all, no one in their right mind would be happy at their kids being sacrificed like this, and against who? Against the village they grew up in. Unfortunately, no matter how much people complained, nothing changed because the people in power were drowned in their own delusion that they were doing this for a good reason. A few hours later, the sun started rising from the horizon, bringing with it a new day to the kids of this camp that passed the night under the fear of death, an experience they will never forget, and some will even quit being a ninja because of it. It didn't take long before everyone packed their tents and on their journey, they marched again. But what was surprising is that even while moving, they still kept that same formation, bringing a frown to our faces until we started noticing something, a flaw. Such a flaw would never have happened if this was a war, but because those clans were in a rush to leave, today it appeared, a simple flaw called experience. To keep a battle formation working while moving is one of the hardest things and requires a lot of training and experience, something these Jinins and Academy students and at best some Chunins never had. And it showed because different from when they were stationary. Now their positioning wasn't perfect and it created some blind spots. These blind spots were thanks to the Land of Fire being a place filled with forests, but even though this was a flaw, it wasn't easy to use or take advantage of, because they will quickly readjust their formation. But that's only when you don't have the Sharingan, and so a new plan quickly took form under the cooperation of these three monsters, and before long they took action to execute it. After seeing the only possible flaw in the formation, we started coming up with different plans, but before that, we needed to understand what each of us was better at, so Shui went first by saying, I am very good at shuriken jutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu, but my specialty is close combat while using the body flicker jutsu. Of course, this is only true when his Mangekyo Sharingan isn't considered. Next, Itachi said, I am good at taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu, and specialize in shuriken jutsu. I went last and said, I am good at ninjutsu, genjutsu, and shuriken jutsu, but my specialty is stealth and taijutsu. Indeed, with my enhanced senses and reaction speed, I am built perfectly for these two, especially stealth when we add in the map function from the system. Now that we know each other's main strengths, do you have any ideas on how to do this without leaving any traces or evidence of our action? Asked Shui. Itachi shook his head. It's hard enough to infiltrate them, and it's even harder to do it without leaving a trace, but even if we can do this, we might still be found out by the spy underground. I think we should sacrifice one of the conditions to do it safely. Shui nodded at him, but I shook my head. Shui, how long does it take for your ability to take effect when you make eye contact with someone? Shui thought about it before he responded because he never tested the lower activation limit of Kodo Amatsukami because that's just asking to be blind. The least duration I had was when I faced that guy Mukai, and I had eye contact with him for literally an instant, and it worked fine. I frowned a little, making them feel concerned that enemies might be near, but I was only thinking that what I came up with might be risky, but I still decided to go with it in the end. I have a plan, a very risky plan, but it's the only thing I can think about. Shui smiled and said, We are ninja. Facing risks is just part of our lives. Please tell us what you came up with. Itachi too looked attentive at this, wanting to hear the plan. Yo, St. Few, you are the last person I want to hear that from. I thought before I started explaining my plan to them. My plan is this. The clans were moving through the forest like a huge caravan. After all, not everyone was a ninja and can travel a long distance on foot. The elders of each clan were enjoying their ride while looking out of the windows from time to time, unbothered by the sacrifices they were willing to make for their glorious mission. Two old people, in particular, were having a talk inside their luxurious horse-drawn carriage. Do you think the masked man will keep his words and bring strong allies to help us deal with the Uchiha? Asked Kohara. He already went this far to deal with them. I don't think he's joking around. Don't worry, we will find out when we reach the Land of Rain, responded Hamura while enjoying some tea and looking at the scenery outside. These two didn't notice two things. First, they didn't notice how heartless they are for sacrificing their people while they are enjoying tea and not feeling any regret. And the second thing was the two normal-looking birds hovering high in the air and observing their caravan. Of course, these two birds are the unique Uchiha summons, the dark crows, and currently, they were transformed to look like normal birds to not arouse suspicion. These two crows belonged to Itachi and Shui, and were summoned by them to keep a better eye on the situation so that each of them can fulfill his own purpose of the plan. As for their bodies, they were both outside the range of the formation, not needed to take action for now. But this time I wasn't with them, and Itachi is wearing an earring in his left ear and seemed to be muttering something, and if someone could see the ground around them, they would find many shining objects all around them. Meanwhile, I was doing my best to avoid people's eyesight and infiltrate the formation, which got harder the deeper I got, because when you get closer to the center of the formation, which is the moving caravan, The level of ninja will keep on rising, from academy student to Jinin to Chunin, and in the end, even some Jonin. And this is without considering the lurking Zetsu. So I had to push my focus beyond its limits and use it with my map at the same time to detect people, and then use even more focus on my stealth skill to stop any of my chakra from leaking outside my body and not cause any sound or disturbance in the area around me. During all this, I had to follow Itachi's instructions and plant objects in specific locations. This was his job, to guide me. After I got closer to the area protected by the Chunin, I finally made a mistake. I didn't calculate the position of the sun correctly, so one of the Chunin happened to see a small part of my shadow, which I quickly noticed and hid. It all happened in an instant, and he quickly got vigilant and raised his head to confirm something and noticed that a bird was flying past their camp, and it left a shadow on the ground which caused that Chunin to lower his guard again while thinking. Thank God it's just a bird, he thought. While I thought differently, good job, Shursui. Indeed, that bird was Shursui's summon. His job currently was to help me cover for any flaw I show, and he did it perfectly. After this, I became more careful, and I heard Itachi say, I calculated to the best of my ability. Now all that's left is to see if our luck is good. Retreat quickly so that Shursui can focus on his job. And just like that, I planted the final small object on the side of the road where the caravans will pass before I started retreating with the help of both Shursui and Itachi. The moment I arrived beside them, I directly collapsed down exhausted, not physically but mentally, and Itachi too was the same, but we still have to fulfill another part of the plan. Slowly the caravan moved along the path where we planted the objects, and Shursui unsummoned his crow and waited for the right time as his eyes turned into his Mangekyo Sharingan. The right time soon came as the carriage containing both Koharu and Hamura was about to pass to the left of the last object I planted while they were simply having a conversation together, but soon something changed. The moment they reached that point, from up in the sky a bird dived down, coincidentally aiming at a snake in the ground just beside the object I planted. Koharu and Hamura couldn't help but look at this scene in surprise, but it was then that Hamura inadvertently looked at a small shining object inside the mouth of the snake that was just grabbed by the bird. A mirror that wasn't reflecting the bright light of the sun, but a bloody crimson light instead. And how many ninjas do you think each of the hidden villages has? Here's a tip. During the alliance against Madara, the 5 hidden villages had a collective of 80,000 forces. However, they were made by a combination of ninjas and samurais. Without anyone knowing, Hamura slowly fell under the effect of Shursui's Kodo Amatsukami, and with Shursui now experienced with people instructing their bodies to follow certain commands if they fall under a genjutsu, he quickly took complete control of Hamura's body and did not allow him to have any unwanted reactions. As for how we will get the information from him, we will simply leave a communication device for him to retrieve. Koharu watched as the bird caught the snake and flew away with a worried look, feeling it was a bad omen for such a scene to appear beside them. What she didn't realize, however, is that it was indeed a bad omen, and Hamura beside her was no longer the same. Meanwhile, outside the range of the sentries, Itachi sat on the ground and said with a tired but excited face, "Finally we did it." Shursui nodded in agreement. As for me, I was too tired to even respond. "Yes, I still can't believe we actually did it," said Shursui as his eyes turned back to normal. Only a trail of blood leaking from his right eye indicated what just happened. Indeed, our crazy plan was simple. We used the transformation jutsu on stones we found on the ground to transform them into mirrors, and my task was to plant them on the places where Itachi instructs me. He used his transformed summon to observe the landscape for this, while Shursui used his summon to help cover any mistakes I make, like the shadow incident. All this was for one purpose, and it was to reflect Shursui's eyesight at the right moment to make eye contact with either Koharu or Hamura. For this to succeed, Itachi had to be very precise with the placement of each mirror and calculate everything from the reflected eyesight, the place where the caravan's going to pass, and how to make the mirrors hard to detect by making them the right size and put them in places where they won't reflect the sunlight, etc. This required great intelligence and skill, something Itachi possessed in abundance, as he applied the way he throws his shurikens and how he makes them ricochet from one another to hit a target from impossible angles for this. Then I made a shadow clone and instructed him to turn into a snake and wait beside the last mirror, while Itachi, after we finished planting the mirror, waited with his bird for the right time to attack the snake I left. and cause a disturbance that would draw the attention of those two mummies. This was our plan, where the margin for error was so thin it was even thinner than Sakura's chest. Now all that's left is to plant the communication device, so we simply checked the map of the land of fire and calculated where they will pass by and have some rest because it's impossible for them to only stop at night. At least that's what we thought, but apparently those elders were so paranoid, especially when they saw the bird catching the snake incident causing them to march the whole day and only stopped at night. Because of this, we had to follow them the whole day, and we kept getting closer and closer to the land of rain, but finally, when we arrived at around a day's distance from the land of rain, we saw a river, and Shursui quickly manipulated Hamura to instruct people to camp near it as we quickly planted the device for him somewhere there before they arrived. After we confirmed that he received the device, we finally heaved a sigh of relief as now our mission was officially over and we only had to spread some transmission seals for the device to keep working even from a long distance. At this moment, Itachi, who felt a huge weight in his heart, finally spoke. Do you guys think that there's really someone behind them and they intend to attack the village? Shursui knew the answer, but he didn't want to worry his friend even more, so I said, what if that's the case? Itachi looked troubled and said, I don't know. There are many innocent people inside those clans that were forced to follow their elders. If a war breaks out, they will only die pointlessly. Shursui looked sad, remembering how they were willing to use the formation of death, indicating just how this situation is going to end. Itachi, stop bitching around as if you are the only one who has emotions and doesn't like war, I said as I started getting annoyed with this kid. I don't think Itachi tried to retort in anger before I cut him off. Power, I said. What do you mean? Itachi said. That's your answer. Grow stronger. Strong to the point that no one will dare to start a war for fear that you will get involved. That's how you create peace, I said, seriously, causing both his eyes and the silent Shursui's eyes to light up, and I continued. As for how you keep the peace, you will have to teach it for the next generations to carry your will correctly, but even then it won't be enough. Konoha is the best example, I said as I shook my head at the two kids in front of me. Hashirama preached for the will of fire, and he strove his whole life to bring peace to this world by sending good intentions to other villages. Yet the moment he died, those same villages used his good intentions, mainly the tailed beast, as tools for war. The Uzumaki clan that his wife belonged to, that wanted to live peacefully, were betrayed and killed, and even his body wasn't spared and was used for evil experiments. This is your future if you continue with the same mindset, I said as I looked at them with a cold gaze that extinguished the light that started blooming in their eyes. They both looked broken at the reality they couldn't escape, and I couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha ha, why are you two looking like this? Itachi grabbed me by the collar in anger and was about to punch me, but Shursui held him back and shook his head at him, and Itachi slowly calmed down a little. I am sorry, but please don't laugh at my dream, Itachi said. I am not laughing at your dream. I am laughing at your stupidness, I said, and Itachi's anger started rising again, but I continued. You need to understand that this is humanity. Greed, envy, pride, hatred, and many other things will never allow us to truly live in peace, but what you can do is achieve peace in your lifetime the way Hashirama did. I smiled at him. As for what comes after you, that's for the next generations to worry about, you idiotic kid, I said as I used my index and middle finger and poked his forehead the same way he does to Sasuke. Both Itachi's and Shursui's eyes widened at my words, and they felt like they were enlightened and only woke up when I poked his forehead, making him blush in embarrassment for being treated like this by another kid, but the rising thoughts in his heart quickly drowned all his other feelings, and Shursui felt the same way. Grow stronger and bring peace to the world in our lifetime. As for whether it continues after our death, that's up to who comes next. As I was casting my talk no jutsu on Shursui and Itachi, the now controlled Hamura finally went back to his own personal tent to rest, or at least this is what the rest of the elders thought. The reality was different because the moment he was alone, we received a signal on our communication device indicating that the final part of our mission is finally about to be completed. As Itachi and Shursui regained their calm from my previous speech, Shursui's eyes transformed into this Mangekyo Sharingan, and at the same Hamura started casting a special seal around him in the shape of a circle. The purpose of this seal is to isolate any sound from leaving the circular seal. This was a very simple sound isolation seal that even someone like Hamura could use. After it was done, Hamira's distorted voice finally started coming out of the earring I was holding in my hand under Shirsue's control, explaining to us everything that happened 5 days ago that caused this series of events. 5 days ago, after Danzo was kidnapped by the masked man from Konoha's torture and interrogation department. That same masked man visited me and Kohara when we were having a conversation on how to deal with the situation of having an unworthy person as a Hokage and as losing our powers. The two Uchiha dreamers frowned at the comment of Fugaku being an unworthy Hokage, but they didn't say anything for now, and only felt disappointed in themselves for respecting such people before. The masked man introduced himself as Tobi, and he said that the Uchiha used another ability from their eyes we don't know, like we didn't know Izanagi or Fugaku's Mangekyo Sharingan's ability. That ability was used on Hiruzen to trick him to believe that his grand student, the fourth Hokage, was still alive, which should be impossible considering that he summoned the Forbidden Death Reaper to seal the nine tails inside his son, so it should have been impossible for his soul to exist inside the Jinchuriki seal space or any other place other than the Death Reaper. At this point, Itachi and Shursui shot me a weird look that said, "Just how did you do it?" which I simply shrugged at and continued listening since the juicy part is just starting. Frustrated at their trickery, we decided to follow Tobi's request and gather the forces that are willing to help us free Konoha from such a Hokage and clan that uses underhanded tricks. Frustration kept building on Shursue's and Itachi's hearts, and they kept remembering my previous teachings, and without them realizing, their hearts slowly kept changing, something I clearly noticed from how their gazes turned a little sharper and colder. However, whether this change was for better or for worse, that's something for the future to reveal. Now we are going to make a camp on the land of rain, near the border with the land of fire, and wait for the right time to attack, which will be when Tobi is done with his preparations and gather enough allies. As for our supporters left in Konoha, they are. There was only silence between the three listeners when knowing that war was approaching very soon. A worst-case scenario for the weakened Konoha and its people. Think about it. What will happen if these 7 clans attack Konoha along with a masked man which can contend with the strongest Kages, Orochimaru and Danzo, which are at Kage level and can deal with people like Hiruzen one-on-one? And then there's Kakuzu and Kisame. One can survive a battle with the current strongest Kage in history, Hashirama, and the other can deal with the 8 Tails Jinchuriki on his own, and not to mention the involvement of other powers. As for Konoha, it has Fugaku and Hiruzen at Kage level, and that's all. Other than them, there's only Hayashi and Kakashi at elite Jonin level. As for the rest, they are merely Jonin. Even if Jiraiya and Tsunade were summoned back, they won't be enough with 2 of them having not fought for a long time. They were both rusty, especially Tsunade, who was drowning herself daily in alcohol and gambling to forget her misery. And Shursui wasn't good either, with him only having the Mangekyo Sharingan and not the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. At most, he can use his game-changer Kodo Amatsukami 3 more times before he goes blind, and he can't manipulate multiple targets at once since even one person at a time puts a huge burden on his eyes, and manipulating more will than on at the same time will cause him to go blind faster. So him using Susanoo is a better option, and same for Fugaku unless they have Hashirama cells implanted in them like Obito. I noted this in my mind as I said to Shursui and Itachi that were still dazed by the news of the upcoming war. Let go. We need to report this information and think of how to deal with this mess. They broke out of their daze with worried looks on their faces as Shursui said, "You are right. Let hurry back. The sooner we inform them, the better." And so, just like this, our difficult mission was over. Unfortunately, we felt no happiness or accomplishment after we discovered the horrible news and confirmed Konoha's worst nightmare. Our way back didn't take us too long because we didn't want to waste any time as we traveled at our top speed and only stopped from time to time to plant some transmission seals. And so by the dawn of the next day, we were already in front of a huge familiar gate, the entrance to Konoha. No one questioned us since we didn't go on an official mission in the first place, so we directly headed in the direction of the village center, the location of the new Uchiha compound, and directly entered the clan head's house to report the mission to Fugaku. Surprisingly, Fugaku was awake, and seeing the flustered looks on our faces, he started having a bad feeling on his heart, a feeling that was quickly confirmed when Shursui quickly followed the normal ninja protocol, without any greeting, which was to kneel on one leg and hurriedly started reporting the mission, and Itachi was the same, even though it was his father, but right now he was working. As for me, I wasn't going to kneel for any protocol or whatever and only watched Fugaku's reaction hearing the report about the formation of death, our plan, the spies left behind, and finally the information about the incoming war. The moment Shursui finished his report, Fugaku quickly got to his feet and said, "Thanks, you three did unbelievably well, especially not allowing Shursui's ability to be discovered, allowing us to still have it as a trump card. Please keep this information as top secret. I need to quickly gather everyone trustworthy and apprehend the spies left in the village." Fugaku quickly body flickered away while creating some clones to inform specific people to meet secretly. Soon the village that was stuck in its old ways was going to experience another inevitable change. But was it the only village changing? While Konoha was sending me, Shursui, and Itachi on that suicide mission to confirm the true intentions of the deserting 7 clans. Obito aka Tobi was stirring many currents throughout the ninja world. After his communication with Pain ended, the first thing he did was teleport to the land of water to meet someone that's going to join in the attack against Konoha, and that person was Kisame Hashigaki. Different from the other members of the Akatsuki, Kisame was recruited personally by Tobi after he killed his previous master, who was a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen and the previous owner of his famous living weapon Samahata. His name was Fuguki Suikazan. After Kisame killed him, he was planning on becoming a missing nin of the Hidden Mist village, but before he could leave, he was intercepted by 2 people, the 4th Mizukage Yagura Karatachi and Obito, who introduced himself as Madara Uchiha. That day he learned that Madara was controlling the Mizukage, which was the Jinchuriki of the 3 tails, through the famous Uchiha Genjutsu, and decided to follow this legendary ninja. Thus, he got recruited into the Akatsuki and became Tobi's loyal follower. Now, these 2 people were meeting inside the Kage Tower of the Hidden Mist village as if they owned the place and talking about the upcoming war. "Madara, what did you come to see me for? You know I am busy managing the Hidden Mist village as you instructed, right?" asked Kisame with his wicked smile showing his sharp shark-like teeth. "By manage, you mean ruining it and enjoying your dark fantasies?" "Well, I don't care anyways," said Obito in a dark, cold voice mimicking Madara's. The Hidden Mist village used to raise its ninja using cruel ways unlike the other villages, famously known for pitting their academy graduates against each other in death matches as a final exam, with the exceptionally skilled students named prime candidates for the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and this tradition was only discontinued after Zabuza Momoshi, not yet a student himself, killed over 100 academy students, gaining with it the nickname Demon of the Hidden Mist. But even though the situation after this incident became better, the 4th Mizukage soon became under Obito's control, who let Kisame do whatever he wants with Kiri, and the result was far from ideal. After all, during this reign, the village hidden in the mist became famously known as the Village of the Bloody Mist. "Ha, I'm just having some fun while doing my job. Anyway, do you need something from me?" Kisame laughed before he asked seriously, since he was curious at the sudden visit. "Yes, here's the situation." Obito quickly told him what happened in Konoha before he followed up with his instruction. "I want you to meet with Orochimaru and Kakuzu and travel to the village hidden in the clouds, Kumo, the village hidden in the stone, Iwa, and the village hidden in the sand, Suna, to inform them about the current situation of Konoha and a possible alliance to get rid of them once and for all since they are in a weak state." "You seem very eager to take your revenge," said Kisame with a grin. "Don't talk too much," was the cold response he got from Obito, and he followed saying, "This isn't just for revenge. With this, we can get our hands on the 9 tails and possibly take advantage of the situation to weaken the other villages and get the tailed beasts in their possessions too, shortening the time for my plan." "I understand. Please take me near Kato," said Kisame, and Obito complied as they both disappeared from the Hokage Tower as if they never existed, leaving Yagura sitting there blankly doing some paperwork. During the 5 days I was hospitalized, and while Konoha was trying to fix the damage from the battle with Danzo and its unstable situation with new council members, Kisame quickly met up with Kakuzu, which was doing some mission in the Land of Fire. Because of his love for money, Kakuzu was the most active Akatsuki member, yet no one ever knew his abilities because he never left any witnesses behind. When he heard that a war was about to happen, he simply looked at it as having more people to kill, which equals more money to him, so he readily accepted the mission and quickly joined Kisame to meet Orochimaru. They traveled to the north of the Land of Fire, passing its borders and entering the Land of Sound, the place where Orochimaru built one of his bases when he escaped from Konoha and was attempting to create a new hidden village. However, the other Akatsuki members only knows about the village and not the base where he does his weird experiments to make his huge obsession with immortality a reality. As they met Orochimaru, he gave them his typical hair-raising look with his snake eyes, but they weren't bothered by it. After all, one was a cold humanoid made mainly from hair, and the other looked like a mixture between a shark and a human. Not one of them was normal. "What brought you here, my fellow Akatsuki members?" said Orochimaru with a smile. "We came to inform you that the Akatsuki is planning to attack Konoha, and the leader ordered for you to help since you know it better than most as the previous student of the third Hokage," said Kakuzu, coldly going straight to the point. Orochimaru was excited by the news, but he decided to ask first, what caused this sudden decision? Kakuzu looked at Kisame, who reluctantly explained to him Konoha's current situation quickly. "Amazing, great. Ha!" Orochimaru laughed hysterically and followed, saying with a cruel smile, "Those old bastards finally got what they deserve. I am definitely going to give my dear village and teacher a visit and send them to their death personally." Orochimaru couldn't wait to get his hands on Hashirama's body along with many Uchiha and Hyuga for his experiments, but most importantly, he wanted Itachi Uchiha. Kakuzu and Kisame looked coldly at this weirdo before they went with him to his still-in-the-making hidden village to wait for him to make his preparations before they visit the other hidden villages. As they were waiting, Orochimaru entered his base through a hidden passage and thought with his eyes shining with a dangerous light, filled with a need to possess. Who would have thought? That old bastard Danzo hid this amazing Izanagi from me. It's good he's still alive. I will make sure I get all the research from his experiments. Before he started thinking about something else, but something doesn't feel right. Who was the man that helped Danzo escape from the village unscathed? Why did I never hear about a member with teleporting ability? Orochimaru had a bad feeling about this member that was hiding in the shadows of this already so secretive organization, but he thought he will find out in the future. He arrived inside a training ground where he was training a few promising people he collected from around the world and started instructing them on what to do during his absence before he went deeper into the base to make sure that his research won't be discovered if it was raided. As the Akatsuki were stirring trouble for Konoha by informing the other hidden villages about the current situation and the upcoming war. In Konoha, the situation was drastically evolving for the worst. When the Uchiha trio returned from their top-secret mission and reported their findings of the clan's intentions and the identity of the spies left behind in the village, Fugaku quickly notified the trustworthy clans and Umbu members and quickly mobilized all of Konoha's forces to apprehend the spies. Many fights and skirmishes happened everywhere, but the casualties were surprisingly low. That's until some people got involved, and if you don't look at the Uchiha clan's losses. Apparently, those spies weren't willing to fight other clan members to the death, and most of the time, they were apprehended after a small-scale battle. However, the situation was different for the Uchiha, especially those that worked on the Uchiha police force and tried to protect the civilians during the ongoing chaos. Those spies would viciously attack the Uchiha members even if they didn't provoke them and only did their jobs protecting the civilians, which caused many casualties among the police force ranks, which in turn enraged the Uchiha clan, and they started massacring those spies even if they surrendered, resulting in a bloody situation. Two kids looked at the several losses all around the village with blank eyes before those eyes turned crimson, and they started dealing with anyone that was attacking the police force viciously and effectively, to the point that the situation started calming down after their involvement. They were Itachi and Shursui Uchiha. You might think about how the situation ended up like this. After all, Fugaku should have planned this perfectly to not alarm those clans before they capture them, and the answer is simple. Fugaka trusted in Shirsue's ability, and because Hamura was one of the leaders of this rebellion, Fugaka believed that the list of spies that he received was complete. So pressured by the urgent situation, he gathered all the clans and ninja that weren't part of that list and told them about his intentions to apprehend the spies as quickly as possible. However, what he didn't expect, nor did Hamura and Koharu, was that more people will join their cause after some of the spies invited their closest friends, and one of them happened to be the clan head of the Tatami clan, which was a small clan and also one of the bodyguards of the previous Hokage. Just like that, before the people in the meeting took action, those spies were quickly informed and chaos quickly descended on Konoha, resulting in the current bloody situation. When this situation started, I wasn't sitting still. Rather, I brought Naruto, that was now living with me, to visit Mikoto and Sasuke. And the moment she opened the door with Sasuke following behind her, I saw that she had a worried look that quickly turned relieved when she saw us, and said as she hugged both me and Naruto, "Thank God you two are okay. I was just about to visit you and see how you are doing." Naruto enjoyed the warmth from her hug while I said with a warm smile, "We are fine, but the situation is really bad, and I have a bad feeling, so I wanted to invite you and Sasuke to my house, just in case someone tries to attack you and use you to threaten Fugaka-san." Mikoto's opened her eyes in shock at this possibility and quickly agreed to follow me to my house, just in case. As we walked inside my house, Mikoto finally heaved a sigh of relief and said, "We should be fine now." But I thought otherwise, because just at this moment I heard a few people land on top of Mikoto's house, and they seemed to be looking for something before they started walking in our direction. TCH, a censor? I thought as I started thinking quickly before I looked at Mikoto, remembering she used to be a jonin, so I signaled for her with my finger that someone was coming, and she quickly understood my meaning along with the observant Sasuke, leaving only the clueless Naruto in the dark, who was still probably thinking about Mikoto's hug. Meanwhile, Mikoto frowned before she looked at the kids reluctantly, and soon her eyes shone with resolve as she smiled warmly and said to me, "Bakorio, make sure to take care of Sasuke and Naruto, okay?" "Mom, what are you talking about?" asked Sasuke worriedly. "Sasuke, I love you. Please tell Itachi that I love him too no matter what," she smiled warmly and gave me one last look, almost pleading to take the kids away before she turned around and walked in the direction of the door, and I felt the ninja outside stopping, as if waiting for her to come out. At this point, Naruto started understanding that something wasn't right and was about to say something, but Sasuke was faster. "Mom, where are Y-?" Sasuke tried to hold her hand and stop her, but I held him back. He angrily turned to me and was about to yell at me, but froze in fear when he saw my face and quickly lowered his head. Even I didn't know what kind of face I was making right now. What I know for sure is whenever someone tries to harm those close to me, I would snap and lose all reason, and that's what I was feeling right now as I saw the first person I cared for in this world walking to her death. Rage, insanity, heartlessness, nothing could describe how I was feeling as I saw that woman trying to sacrifice herself to give us a chance on escaping. I didn't know when, but the world in front of me turned crimson, and Sasuke, that was looking at my distorted face and crazed smile, saw a strange pattern in my eyes. Something he never thought was possible, only when he heard recently that his father had different eyes. Something called Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke wasn't the only one shocked. No, Naruto, Kurama, Minato, and Kushina were all in deep shock at my transformation, an awakening of a demon. However, Sasuke's days didn't last long, because he heard a voice that seemed to be coming from hell. "Take Naruto and leave," I said as I walked after Mikoto, that had already opened the door and jumped to face the people outside with her Sharingan activated. Sasuke almost didn't comply, but it was Naruto that stopped him this time. "Father said to believe in them. Not to mention, if we stay behind, we will only burden them and might result in their deaths." Sasuke reluctantly agreed, while feeling helpless at his weakness, and he remembered how he always complained when Bakorio trained them and said he never goes easy on them. But now he wished he trained even harder to be of some use. While thinking this, he quickly ran away with Naruto through the back of the house with tears in their eyes, while saying with determination, "We need to grow stronger to protect those dear to us." And Naruto replied with a sad face, worried about the first person that gave him more than he could ever pay back in his whole life. "Yes." Meanwhile, outside there were 5 people in total, 2 jonin and 3 chunin, and one of those jonin was actually a member of the Umbu, so it was impossible for Mikoto to face them alone and her death was certain. That is if no one interferes. The moment Mikoto jumped out of the door, she quickly started the hand seals for the Great Fireball Jutsu, and she sent a huge fireball at the ninjas. However, they expected this famous Uchiha attack, so the fireball was intercepted by the second Jonin that wasn't an Umbu member as he quickly did some hand seals before he put his hand on the ground casting a giant earth wall jutsu. This jutsu created a huge wall made of earth that blocked the fireball, keeping his comrades safe. However, Mikoto never intended to take them out with her jutsu. Instead, it was only a distraction as her true attack was in the form of a dozen shurikens she threw at them, which were connected to invisible chakra strings she uses to change their direction midair. However, as if knowing her fighting style, the Jonin Umbu quickly weaved some hand seals and cast a wind tornado jutsu, which created a violent tornado that caused huge turbulences in the air that made controlling her shurikens almost impossible even with her strong mastery. Meanwhile, the other Chunins didn't waste any time and quickly worked together to attack her as one of them started casting a fire wave jutsu that has a huge range, clearly to force her to protect the house behind her while the other 2 used wind jutsu to strengthen the fire. This combination attack created a huge sea of fire that threatened to swallow Mikoto and the house containing the kids she dearly loved behind her. Mikoto was panicking as she could clearly see the 2 Jonin were planning to attack her the moment she doesn't evade and tries to defend this huge fire attack, but she had no other choice as she thought, it seems this is the end, and a tear fell from her eyes as her determination solidified and whispered goodbye, and started casting a huge earth wall that would protect the house behind her. Meanwhile, the 2 Jonin quickly attacked her from 2 different locations as the Umbu shot a very sharp air blade at her, while the other one created a quagmire under here, so she can't escape. But Mikoto didn't react to these attacks and accepted her fate as she simply finished her jutsu and placed her hands on the ground that was now a quagmire, creating a huge earth wall that blocked the fire wave just enough so that it doesn't affect the house behind her while it continued devouring the surrounding houses. And then, she simply closed her eyes since she didn't have any time to block or evade these deadly attacks with both her hands and legs stuck inside the quagmire, and would take her time to retrieve them, which she doesn't have as her attackers didn't give her any. And even with their huge advantage, the normal Jonin was still casting another jutsu just in case to harden the quagmire and completely lock her inside, and he should be thankful he did, because the moment the air blade was about to cut her, a kid with crimson eyes and holding a short sword quickly flickered in its path, while enveloped in a red chakra. What happened next was one of the weirdest scenes they ever experienced, because that kid simply looked at the attack that should have been impossible for him to block at his age, and his eyes slightly contracted as he simply used his short sword and slashed that air blade, making it dissipate. At the same time, thanks to his Mangekyo Sharingan's very strong Eye of Insight ability, he quickly understood what jutsu the other Jonin was trying to cast, so he quickly picked Mikoto with his free hand and jumped away from the quagmire that quickly turned into hard stone. Mikoto was shocked at the kid in front of her that just saved her life while enveloped in the chakra of a tailed beast that created 3 tails extending from his lower back, a transformation that usually only happens to those that have a tailed beast sealed in them, resulting in them, called Jinchuriki. Yet this kid wasn't one, which confused her, but that confusion was quickly drowned at the sensation of being alive and felt at peace with the kid in front of her in a protecting posture, yet still having a distorted face that made him appear like a demon, but she only looked at it with her usual warm expression while muttering in her heart thanks. Of course, right now I wasn't concerned with what she felt because I was still very angry while looking at the 5 ninja showing shocked and wary faces while looking at me and saying, how does this Uchiha kid have the power of the 9 tails? It seems they were really the ones behind the incident 5 years ago and can already use the chakra of the 9 tails. Be careful, he's more troublesome than that woman, and his weapon seems very hard and sharp since my jutsu didn't leave a scratch on it, said the Umbu ninja in wariness. Adding to their surprise, I took out another short sword from my inventory and looked at them coldly with my killing intent, casting an ominous atmosphere on the area surrounding me. My anger at seeing Mikoto almost killed instinctively moved my body as I quickly flickered in front of one of the Chunins, while Mikoto quickly got ready to offer her assistance when needed. I arrived in front of them at a very fast speed, and one of the Jonin made an earth wall to block my way and hinder my vision. But my senses were far too strong for me to be hindered by a simple lack of vision, and quickly understood that they were all casting mini jutsu for when I break through the wall recklessly, and so I used their plan against them. As my vision was obstructed, theirs was the same, so I simply kicked a big stone from one of the previously destroyed earth walls that were made at this new stone wall. Meanwhile, those 5 ninjas were preparing different ninjutsu to attack me when I break the wall, and the wall indeed broke, but as they were about to throw their prepared ninjutsu. One of the Chunins, which was a censor ninja, quickly tried to warn them, but it was too late. The 2 experienced Jonin and censor quickly jumped away when they felt something was wrong, but that wasn't the case for the last 2 Chunins, as they found themselves swallowed by a huge fireball that came out of the ground under them, causing them to scream from the pain of being burned alive, and I followed behind it, attacking the 3 that avoided my sneak attack. They mistook my anger and craziness for carelessness, and they paid the price for it with 2 lives, and 3 more were coming as my bloodlust increased. Those 3 had ugly looks on their faces seeing what happened to their comrades, but they didn't have time to mourn them because a shower of shurikens was raining on them, and they couldn't react in time to cast a jutsu, so they quickly took out kunais and started deflecting them quickly. But Mikoto wasn't a Jonin for nothing, and those shurikens quickly started ricocheting from one another midair, making their paths very unpredictable and dodging them almost impossible, and surprisingly the one that quickly fell victim to them was the Jonin that was good with Earth style, as he became a human porcupine. This is a fight without mercy. The reason for the Chunin censor surviving the rain of shurikens falling over him rather than the other Jonin is simply because he was a censor. Censors are typically gifted with great senses and reaction speeds. That's why he can find a way to survive even after getting hit with some shurikens, while the other Jonin couldn't. As for the Umbu Jonin, he survived because he was both skilled and talented. Even if his senses didn't reach a level similar to a censor ninja, they were still strong, coupled with the huge experience he has from being an Umbu and going through countless deadly missions. Surviving this rain of unpredictable shurikens was hard, but not impossible for him. Unfortunately for these 2, their opponent wasn't only Mikoto, but another monster that was eyeing them as his prey. The moment I came out of the ground, my vision quickly focused on the 2 struggling ninjas, and I quickly threw my swords at both of them with all my strength, while following after, leaving them no choice but to defend them or die. The Chunin tried to deflect the sword the same way he was deflecting the shurikens, which was a wrong decision he made because of the pressure he was under, as the huge power behind my throw wasn't something he was expecting, and quickly caused him to lose his balance and became a human porcupine, like his fellow ninja. The experienced Umbu wasn't any better, as he decided to send a kunai at Mikoto in a desperate attempt, knowing he couldn't dodge from this situation, and his body quickly got impaled by many shurikens, but it simply disappeared in a puff of smoke. Meanwhile, Mikoto, that was focused on controlling her shurikens, didn't expect the kunai the man sent in a desperate attempt to take her down with him to transform into him. Damn it, I was careless. He used the shuriken transformation jutsu and transformed into a kunai to trick my Sharingan, Mikoto thought, as she looked at the man before her that was about to slit her throat. However, I wasn't about to allow for this to happen, because the moment that man threw the kunai, I noticed something. The expression of pain when he got impaled seemed fake. So thanks to my quick reaction speed, I quickly understood what's happening, so I directly poured chakra in my body, pushing it to its breaking point. I pounced at the kunai with enough force, creating a sonic boom, and leaving behind me a shattered ground where I was standing. The man just transformed back to normal and tried to kill the woman before him before he felt a huge force hitting him in the head, and that was the last thing he felt, as his head exploded like a watermelon and his body traveled a long way, flipping and turning many times on the ground while destroying many obstacles on its way before finally stopping. Makoto looked in shock as a rain of blood and gore rained down on her, and the kid that quickly removed the red chakra surrounding him and started regaining his normal reasoning back. Not long after, he quickly felt a terrible pain from using all that chakra and pushing his 6-year-old body beyond its limits, and the only thing currently holding him together is the healing properties from Kurama's chakra along with his strong vitality and physique attributes. One increased his recovery speed and the other the toughness of his body and how much stress it could endure. He also consumed a huge amount of stamina in the short fight, leaving him exhausted, and he almost fell to the ground, but the woman in front of him quickly regained her composure from the unbelievable series of events of being near death twice and hugged the bloody kid, not letting him fall, while gently whispering with tears of happiness falling from her eyes, "Thank you." Feeling the warmth from this soft embrace along with the terrible pain coursing through my body, I simply thought in my head, it was worth it, before I relaxed a little while keeping some of my attention on the surrounding just in case. That team definitely wasn't normal. They had such good teamwork and synergy between them, which was impossible to build out of nowhere, seeing that one of their members was an umbu. I will ask Makoto about them later. These two idiots, why are they coming back? I thought, as I heard Naruto and Sasuke arguing about going back. After all, they were simply kids. Whatever determination they could have made to leave would never hold, especially for Sasuke, knowing that he's leaving his mother to face her death along with his best friend. So he finally decided to go back and fight to the death with them, even if he provides little to no help. A foolish decision. Naruto kept trying to stop him to no avail, so, in the end, he decided to tag along with him. He wasn't going to let Sasuke go back alone. Well, let's make the best out of this situation, I thought, as I whispered something to Makoto, and she reluctantly agreed when I insisted. When Naruto and Sasuke reached the fight location, their hearts sank, as to their horror they saw 2 burned corpses which they related to the screams they heard before coming here. And 2 people stabbed to death with so many shurikens to the point their bodies weren't recognizable anymore, causing them to almost throw up, and would be a cause for many of their nightmares in the future. Add to that Makoto covered in blood while laying in a pool of blood and gore, with their friend Bakorio laying motionless in her embrace, causing them to rush at her, while Sasuke asked in hope of an optimistic answer, "Mother, how are you?" And Bakorio? Makoto with a sad face said, "I am fine. Bakorio saved my life," and didn't say anything about Bakorio causing both Sasuke and Naruto to feel pain in their hearts as if they were getting squeezed by something. What about Bakorio?" asked Naruto with a worried look, and Makoto simply shook her head and hugged me closer to her body, while inside she felt guilty at lying to these kids, which now had blanks look on their faces. "You were joking, right?" said Sasuke, seeming to be talking more to himself than to his mother, while Naruto simply kept staring blankly, unresponsive to his parents' concerns that he heard in his head. "I am useless. I couldn't even protect my friend," they both thought. Why? Why? Tears of regret and sadness quickly started flowing down their faces. If only I helped them. Maybe we could have made a change. If only I was stronger, they wouldn't reject my help. Sasuke was saying inside his head, and Naruto was having a similar monologue with himself. I left my friend behind. If only I fought along with him to the end. If only I could control Kurama's chakra like him, this wouldn't have happened. These thoughts filled their minds as a darkness they never felt before started rising inside their hearts, seeing how cruel the world is. And before long, Sasuke's neck started heating up, and that heat quickly rushed to his eyes, which turned crimson in the process, but he didn't notice this change as he simply hugged the corpse of his friend, and Naruto did the same. Hopefully, you will listen properly next time and won't return to throw your life away pointlessly in the case we lose. I thought as I felt the 2 kids hugging me, and from the corner of my eye saw the change in Sasuke's eyes. Seeing that my purpose of awakening Sasuke's Sharingan and teaching them this valuable lesson was achieved, I finally stopped this charade, saying, "You 2 crybabies need more training." Naruto and Sasuke, Yaya, they both yelped in surprise and jumped away from me with their eyes wide in shock and still wet with tears, as if they saw a ghost in front of them, and quickly hid behind Makoto. "TCH, what are you overreacting for?" I said in an annoyed tone as I left Makoto's embrace, but still felt weak as I didn't recover that much yet, so I had to hold on to her to not fall down. "Mom, what's happening?" asked Sasuke, with his eyes now back to normal, to his mother that was looking at him with an apologetic smile. Makoto heaved a sigh before she said, "I am sorry, Sasuke. Naruto-kun. Bakorio actually pretended to be dead on purpose to help you awaken your Sharingan. and left something unsaid and help you understand the pain that comes with weakness in this world. They both finally realized that their friend was still alive, but before they could rejoice, they felt anger at being tricked in such a way and felt their emotions were being toyed with. I looked at their angry faces and felt like I deserved a harsh beating for letting two kids experience this traumatizing pain, but I felt it was really necessary. Indeed, I am sorry, but I wanted you to be ready. Ready for the worrying future that is about to come, and I believe you two can help change it for the better. Makoto didn't know what I meant by worrying future, but she too wasn't feeling optimistic after seeing the recent events that occurred one after the other, with the village having no time to rest to lick its wounds properly. I hate you, said Naruto while he hugged Makoto and didn't want to look at me as he kept remembering this horrifying scene, and will always remember it in the future, and it will be his biggest motivation and drive to grow stronger. And it was the same for Sasuke. The only difference is that he kept glaring at me, and I felt like he wanted to beat me up but hesitated when he saw that I was barely standing on shaky legs with the support of his mother. Thankfully, I know you two are very strong mentally even from a young age, otherwise I wouldn't scar your childhood like this. But I will try my best to make it up for both of you. I thought as I warmly looked at these two kids that reminded me of something. Something that almost filled the void in my heart before I lost it. I gently patted their heads before I said to Makoto, I can sense many fights currently happening inside Konoha and chaos is everywhere, so I will leave my doubts about who those five are or any questions you have for later. We need to deliver support to the other Uchiha as I can feel many of them struggling. Makoto nodded at me, knowing that the situation wasn't yet optimal to waste time, even though she was dying to ask about my Mangekyo Sharingan. Have you recovered enough? Asked Makoto worriedly. Yes, don't worry. I have strong vitality, and with the help of Kurama's chakra that has natural healing properties, I will quickly make a full recovery, I said while inside I thought. I should really learn medical ninjutsu to not waste time in such situations in the future. Hopefully, we will find Tsunade soon with Jiraiya and Mukai searching for her at the same time. Makoto nodded at me before she hid her concerns and was about to ask something. Where's the claw stash? Boom. A huge explosion sounded near the entrance of the Uchiha compound, and she quickly got her answer as we both made a shadow clone and let them accompany the kids while we both went to the location where the sound was generated from. When we reached there, we saw one of the Uchiha Jonin Inabi heavily wounded while fighting a special Jonin and two Chunin and having to protect two old civilian Uchiha couple behind him. These two were quite famous as they owned a very famous senbei shop inside the village which Sasuke loves to visit with Itachi. They are Taiki Uchiha and his wife Uruchi Uchiha. Inabi and the Uchiha couple lying unconscious on the ground had some burn marks on their bodies and clothes, so both Makoto and I guessed that the previous explosion we heard was because one of those three used a very strong explosion jutsu or seal in their attack. And indeed, that special Jonin was special because of his high mastery of sealing jutsu, allowing him to create many variations of the explosion attacks. One of them, similar to Minato's ability, is to create an explosive seal with his chakra when he touches a target, which he then can make explode at any time he wants. But he can only use it on objects that don't contain chakra, since it isn't as hard to remove as Minato's. And what he did was he fought Inabi with the two Chunins while creating explosive traps in many places around them. Of course, Inabi was able to avoid most of them, but protecting people while fighting will 9 out of 10 times end badly for you and cause you to mess up. And that's what happened as the two behind him got attacked, and they ran away in a panic to dodge the attack. Unfortunately, they ran away to the location of a trap that almost blew them into smithereens, but Inabi saved them in the nick of time, but ended up getting badly injured from the explosion, while those two got knocked out as they didn't escape it completely unscathed. After that, the situation quickly went downhill for the injured Inabi that loved his clan dearly and would risk his life for its people, and started planning a desperate attack to take those three with him, but that's when help arrived as a rain of shurikens with impossible angles forced those three to get back as two people landed beside him, a kid and a woman. He recognized both as the wife of his boss and the new young genius of their clan, but they were both bloody, seeming to have come from a bloody battle too, but he didn't say anything right now, and simply nodded at them in gratitude. I stretched my hand and patted Inabi on the back and sent him some of Kurama's chakra to help him recover quickly, as those three were distracted by Makoto before I started weaving hand seals to cast a great fireball jutsu to pressure those three even more. As I dodged out of the way, I took out something I rarely used. 3 lethal kunais I got way back. I threw them at those 3 ninjas without attaching any chakra strings to them, and only imbuing them with chakra appearing to increase their sharpness. Being a kid, those 3 didn't take my attack seriously, so they simply dodged, but that's when my slithering throwing jutsu took effect, as the chakra imbued on those kunais wasn't simply for sharpening, but it caused the direction of those kunais to change at the last instant when they were about to pass those 3, not allowing them any time to dodge, and they all got lacerated by them. Let's see how effective this is, I thought as I looked at the grunting ninjas wickedly.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.